Tuli wano nga celebrating munaffe Alex Mukulu. But who is Alex Mukulu? John Ssegawa. Tutamu okwetenda owekitiibwa protocol. Waliwo yankubye akamana agamba ogenda mangu. Tuyanze okuba tuli ali naffe. Chief Mona waffe tuyanze okuba tukyali wano ne leader of opposition. John Ssegawa. The eulogy.
Thank you. The Dean, Namirembe Cathedral, and the clergy, the chief mourner, and the political leadership, the family of our late Alex Mukulu, fellow artists, distinguished guests, and all who have gathered beneath this sacred roof. There are men who just live a life, and then there are men who perform a life so fiercely that the line between stage and street, actor and ancestor, it just disappears. Alex Mukulu was that second kind. He was born Edward Alexander Musajja Mukulu Nsubuga Kigonya Kabangala in 1994 in the soil of Misebe Namutamba Singo. For 72 years, he walked among us. Today, the lights have dimmed. The house has fallen silent, and yet, somewhere in the darkness of this cathedral, we can still hear him breathing his lines. Because a man like that does not simply exist. He lingers in the wings of every stage he ever touched. We knew him as the fire behind 30 years of bananas. That unforgiving mirror he held to the face of a young nation and asked without even blinking, "What did you do with those years?" We knew him through Wounds of Africa, carried across continents like a wound that refused to close quietly. We knew him through the Guest of Honor, through Journey to Self-Realization, performed before the world leaders in 2007. Uganda's pride made flesh, made rhythm, and made word. We knew Muzukulu wa Kabangala, the title, the thunderclap of a play that in 1977, under the shadow of a man, dared to stand up and speak, while others had learned the wisdom of silence. We knew the founder of Impact International. We knew the actor, the director, the composer, the teacher who would not let a single performer settle for good enough, because he believed with his whole chest that theater was not decoration. Theater was a reckoning. This is the Mukulu the world applauded. But behind those footlights stood a son of Paulo Kayizi Lugaizi and Victoria Ndagire, granddaughter of Prince Yokana Chimbukwe of Lunguja, a boy who grew up inside the old order of Uganda, who came of age through independence's promise and Amini's terror, who watched this country break, then spent the rest of his life trying to help it remember how to stand. Before he was a playwright, he was a wanderer in the River Nile Band. Before he was a master, he was a student of Byron Kawadwa, and later of Makerere University, where drama and music stopped being mere subjects and became scripture. For Alex Mukulu, art was never a career. It was the only language precise enough to hold both his love for this country and his grief over what had not yet become. He was a purist in an age hungry for easy laugh. And so, when he felt the National Theatre had drifted from its purpose, he did something few men have the spine to do. He walked away. For 17 years, he walked away for 17 years, not out of bitterness, but out of loyalty to a standard. And when in 2024, he finally returned, he did not return quietly all for profit. He returned with Kulunkalu Nekulumbisi, his own Ugandan Romeo and Juliet, and he gave it to the people for free, because some part of him still believed, stubbornly, faithfully, that Uganda could still be called back to something serious, something true. Few of us saw the private man beneath that public thunder, the quiet ache that so often hides beneath those who make others laugh, the relentless conviction that our stages, our stories, our people deserved more. He carried Uganda on his back across Africa, Europe, and America, never losing his accent, never softening his truth to make it easier to swallow. Let it be said plainly, in the house of God, Alex Mukulu belongs among the giants. Besides Byron Kawadwa, beside Robert Serumaga, beside Rosie Mbowa, beside John Ruganda, in that lineage of truth-tellers, he was perhaps the boldest. A man who took satire and sharpened it into a mirror no one could look away from. 30 plays and more bear his name. Muzukulu wa Kabangala, Springs of Tears, Wounds of Africa, The Guest of Honor, Radio Mambo Bado, The People's President, Dances of Poverty, each one a chapter in the long unfinished story of a nation, learning who it is. He sharpened generations of performers who now carry his fire in their own voices. He proved again and again that a story rooted in Uganda soil could still shake a room in London, in New York, anywhere human beings gather to ask hard questions about themselves. Uganda has not simply lost a playwright, Uganda has lost one of its national conscience keepers, a man who used laughter as a scalpel and satire as a sermon, who refused until his very last years to let this country look away from itself. That the government has granted him an official burial is fitting, but the true honor is this: every artist who ever stood a little straighter because Mukulu demanded excellency, every audience member who left a Mukulu play unable to stop thinking that is his moment, and no ceremony can improve upon it. The stage he built still stands. The mirror he raised still catches the light. The standard he set that art must entertain and awaken, must move us and trouble us, remains waiting for the next generation bold enough to meet it. Rest now, Muzukulu wa Kabangala. Rest from the 72 years of speaking what others were too afraid to say. Rest, you who turned laughter into a scalpel and satire into a sermon. Rest, you who walked away to 17 years. Rest, you who walked away for 17 years rather than bow to good enough, and who came home not to applause but to give the people freely one more true thing. Let the drums that opened your place now carry you out. Let every stage in this nation dim its lights tonight in your honor, and let every performer who ever stood straighter under your gaze stand straighter still, because that is not memory, that is inheritance. You told us 30 times and more that Uganda could look at herself, not look away. Today, Uganda looks at you and will not look away either. May the God who gave you your fire now give you peace. May your family find in the coming days a comfort deeper than the words. And may the rest of us, still walking this earthly stage, still fumbling for our lines, carry forward your courage. Carry forward the courage you spent a lifetime trying to teach us. The curtain has fallen, but here, a curtain falling is not the end of a play. It is only the sign that this act is finished and that somewhere in the dark, before the next rises, the story is already rewriting itself in us. Go well, Alex Mukulu, man, myth, philosopher, Muzukulu wa Kabangala. Uganda and the entire world remembers you standing. Thank you.
Ssegawa mwongere ku bugalo. Maybe a word, not maybe, a word from Mike Sebalu, Honorable. Come.